What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome into a very special segment that we're going to be starting here on this channel. It is going to be a weekly Mariners recap, which will include a little bit of post-game recap for today. I am very, very excited to have MarinerSUR in the house from Twitter. If you guys are not following him on Twitter, you absolutely need to be one of the best Mariners fans, one of the most knowledgeable fans that I follow on that website. So if you're on there, go ahead and give him a follow. And really, really happy he's going to be joining me every Sunday night. We're going to do probably a little post-game recap followed by recapping the week for the Mariners. He'll also be joining me for a monthly recap where we'll dive into the players a little bit, the production, their value, look at the numbers a little bit more in depth. So I could not be more excited to have him joining me for these segments. Thank you so much, man, for joining me. And let the people know where they can find you on here.
Yeah, Jay, appreciate it. Very happy to be joining. Yeah, best place to find me is on Twitter at MarinerSUR, just how I have it spelled out there. So yeah, excited to be joining and talking ball here on a weekly and monthly basis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will have his Twitter linked in the description down below. So super excited for this. We're going to have some really fun discussions about this team. And obviously, overall a great week of baseball for the Mariners. A little bit of a frustrating finish to the week, but still 4-2 against the defending World Series champions and the defending National League champions. But before we dive into the week as a whole, your thoughts on today's game? Certainly a frustrating game. Felt like it was winnable for the Mariners. Logan Gilbert, you hate to waste a great outing like that. But what were your thoughts on today's game?
Yeah, definitely one of those losses it's very frustrating. And honestly, it's one of the ones during this good stretch of ball where every loss kind of feels like this, where today was a little bit different. There was really the one inning, I think it was the third, where we had bases loaded. We got the one run in, up 2-1, and then unable to push any more across. And every loss kind of feels like that, where you look back and whether it's an inning or two or, bases loaded, nobody out, one out, or we have runners in scoring position throughout and just can't get it done. So once again, yeah, great pitching. Seventh, eighth, and ninth, a little bit rough. Hard to pitch perfectly. I think that's kind of what we saw, is just a few pitches weren't even necessarily in bad locations. But yeah, just kind of a frustrating game, but really just that third inning where we had a chance to really put separation. So it happens. It's baseball, as you always mention, but one that you certainly felt like you could have won.
Yeah, definitely. I think in that third inning, they get the second run. They had some, even in that inning, outside of the Rivas hit, which congratulations to him on his first big league at bat, getting a triple. That's always fun to see. They really didn't hit a lot of balls hard that inning. They're just kind of falling in, get the bases loaded, nobody out. Gurriel makes that great catch on Ty France's liner. Then the Mitch Garver double play. You feel like you get 2 or 3 more runs there, you probably win that game pretty easy. Logan settles in, gets the W. Listen, I think too that Brandon Pfaadt threw the ball really well for the Diamondbacks. It was frustrating. I'm not going to excuse the offense. They need to be better, but I do think Arizona threw the ball really well. And when we have series like this, I always say on the show, and I think you'll probably agree, if we could switch this, and let's say today's game was Friday and the Mariners lost to Zach Gallen and then won yesterday and then won today, I don't think there'd be any frustration. I think everybody would feel pretty good about this series as a whole, and we'd all be celebrating right now.
Yep, completely agree. And yeah, and Fatsa, he's a good pitcher. I was just trying to pull up. I know last year he was a rookie, and I think we faced him like early on in his season last year. And his numbers weren't great at the time, but I think by the end of the year he was throwing really well. And I remember watching some of their postseason games, and yeah, 3.27 ERA in the postseason, over a K per inning. So I mean, yeah, he's got really good stuff, and I think today he was really commanding it well. His sweeper was moving a ton, and so yeah, one of the ones you have to tip your cap, but yeah, had our chances for sure.
Yeah, I think really, and again, I never want to try to make excuses for the offense. They've got to be better. I think we'd all agree on that. But I thought Slade Zacconi was really, his sweeper was just, or slider was just painting the bottom of the zone against right-handed hitters. Fought today as well. They were saying on the Diamondbacks broadcast, he threw like 33 sweepers or something today. Sometimes you do have to tip your cap. And when the Mariners are playing pretty good ball, I'm willing to do that a little bit more. So, last week against Cal Quantrill, I'm not going to tip my cap as much. I don't think he's very good. But, when you're facing a good pitching staff like Arizona, I'm way more willing to give them credit. And then in the 8th inning, you had Trent Thornton walking Kevin Newman. I know Ketel Marte hit that double off him. Marte's a good hitter. he's going to get you. The at bat that really to me was walking Newman. That was the frustrating one. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that with Trent Thornton in the 8th inning there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I know watching it live, I think he had him 2-2 and then it goes 3-2. And you're just kind of thinking in the back of your head, if he walks here, lead off hitter turning over the lineup, you know where it's going essentially. So I completely agree. The Newman at bat was the one that kind of set the stage that inning. I know with Marte, I kind of had some thoughts of like, do you walk him here? Because Thornton, especially last year, lefties gave him a little bit of issue and he was pretty good against righties. But with Walker on deck, who had all series long, he had been, completely locked in. I think he had a home run and maybe a double today as well. I'm not sure on that, but
you're right.
I thought they maybe would pitch around Marte. I know the pitch to him was kind of in the zone, but it was right at the bottom third. But yeah, I completely agree. It was the about the Newman where that you really, I'm sure that Thornton would certainly love back and making him kind of earn that base.
Yeah, and I thought you made a great put on Twitter because I saw it, and I'm glad you brought that up because that was gonna be my next question. Because I saw you mention that on Twitter. Do you walk Marte and go after Walker? That's a tough one, because like you said, Walker was so dialed in this series. You walk Marte, then Walker hits one out, and you go, well, Marte was cold. Why not just pitch to him? And you made another good point on Twitter that they may have been trying to pitch around Marte, and Thornton just kind of left that one in Marte's wheelhouse a little too much as well. So there's something like that we just you don't know because you're never going to find out. Scott's not going to admit that in a post-game recap, really. So, yeah, just definitely a winnable game today for sure. But I think when you take a step back on these series, that's what I always do, look at the series as a whole. I think we got to come out of that pretty happy overall. Would you agree with taking 2 out of 3 there from Arizona?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think, the week as a whole, you go into it, and especially playing the first half on the road in Texas where you did not play well at all last year. You're thinking 3-3. I feel good about it. Yeah, then zone in on Arizona. They're a good team. They've been swinging it well. You're facing Gallen in game 1 with Hancock going, who's certainly a capable pitcher and has shown that this year. But Gallen's in the upper echelon in the league, so I think getting 2 of 3, you certainly are, happy with walking away from it. Regardless of knowing you could have won today, you have to be happy with 2 of 3, certainly. And really in any series, particularly this one with kind of how the pitching set up.
Yeah, 100%. I kind of thought Friday might be the game they drop. Gallen versus Hancock scared me. I kind of figured they might drop that one. So I kind of trade it off and go, hey, I just try to look at these like, okay, think about they lost Friday, win Saturday, Sunday. You'd take that any day. And to your point, we'll go back to the Texas series here in a little bit. But to go 4-2, like you said, with half the being on the road against a team that not only is the defending champions, but a place that was a house of horrors for you last year in Texas. And then to beat a good Diamondbacks team that, is been a little inconsistent, but they've got good pitching. Their lineup, I like. I think it's a pretty decent lineup. If you can take me through a little bit, the Mariners pitching has just been, phenomenal, especially on this last 6 games. Do you have any thoughts on that? Obviously they're dialed in, but anything else that you have to add about how good this starting staff has been?
Oh, it's been, incredible. You've seen, I'm sure, the tweet that's been kind of being passed around over the last 15 games. And I don't think there's one that shows allowing runs over 2, right? In like a 15 game stretch, there's a lot of 0 and 1. And it's honestly, I would assume, and I hope I'm wrong, but it's probably one of the better 15 game stretches we're going to see from the rotation. They've been dominant. They've been getting deep into games. And we've won a good amount of the games, which is what you want to see. We haven't lost any 1-0, right? So, but the pitching's been absolutely incredible night after night, and it cannot be a fun opponent. Playing the Mariners right now, just facing these guys one after another, they've been absolutely nasty, especially Kirby and Gilbert the last 2. Their velo seem to kind of jump up, and just incredible pitching. I think kind of hopefully reminds everybody why this team can be so good. It's because the pitching can be so dominant and over a fairly long stretch of time. We're going on, I think, over 3 turns through rotation now of dominant outing after dominant outing. So it's been a ton of fun to watch.
Yeah, I think really the last bad start this team has had, Bryce Miller wasn't great in Texas, but before that, Kirby in Toronto, I think was the last time a Mariners starter got hit around a little bit. And it was funny because I'm in Arizona, so I had to watch the D-backs broadcast, which I say they actually do a real good job. I like Candiotti and Berthume. It was kind of funny listening to them because they were just like, Emerson Hancock dealt on Friday. They talked about how great Kirby was yesterday. And they're like, and now we have to face Logan Gilbert today. And, as fans of the team, it's easy to forget it. But looking at it from the eyes of an opponent, I mean, having to face that in a 3-game series is just absolutely brutal to be going up against this pitching staff. I mean, I can't imagine being on the other side of that and facing those guys. And to your point, the numbers have just been insane. And I agree. I think this is probably the best stretch you're going to see. They're not going to run a 1.52 ERA all season. But my hope with that is, while the pitching will probably come down a little bit, still going to be great, the offense hopefully starts improving here a little bit. Any thoughts on the offense right now?
Yeah, I think they've, going back to, this is looking at the schedule here, I feel like going back to the Cubs series here in kind of mid-April, you started seeing it turn a little bit with just more solid at-bats. And then really up on this week in particular, up until yesterday, they were really on starting pitching, grinding them. I think a lot of them were having a hard time finishing the 5th, 6th inning. So the at-bats have gotten a lot better. The power is starting to turn around in kind of certain pockets of the lineup. And so I think it's going in the right direction. I think there's still, like Garver in particular, I think hopefully we'll get going. I have confidence that he will. He had, a home run and a double this series. Polanco's still drawing quite a few walks, but, with the average, obviously, and just kind of overall. But I think the offense is going in the right direction. Still leaves certainly some to be desired, but going into the season, I thought it was going to be a solid offense, not maybe top 5 in the MLB, but somewhere in that like 8 to 12 range. And I think they're certainly capable of landing there. Injuries are starting to creep up though, with JP and Canzone in particular, which they're JP. I mean, obviously strikeouts are an issue for the team. He doesn't do that. He's kind of a table setter. So having to work through some of that, which will be a challenge. But I think we can hopefully, mitigate those with others stepping up throughout. But yeah, I think the offense is moving in the right direction. Maybe not as quick as some would hope or like, but I think we'll get there.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Going up to the Cubs series, it was frustrating. They weren't putting together quality at bats, and it felt rough. Then in the Cincinnati series, it really started turning around. Even though they didn't necessarily put up, I know they hit Montas really hard. Hunter Green kind of wiggled around some jams, but they're able to knock him out, like you said, before 5 innings. Even in Texas a little bit, like John Gray, and I know that's the game the Rangers won, and the Rangers bullpen shut down the Mariners. But even though Gray only allowed a run, they were able to knock him out before 5 innings. So they're starting to drive up pitch counts a little bit. They're having much better at-bats. To your point, and I'm with you, it's not where we want it to be yet. Actually, after the Colorado series, their WRC plus was up to 102. I'm not sure where it's at right now. So they were really starting to get it turned around. But I mean, Colorado's an awful pitching staff. So you're going to score more runs versus them versus, Texas, Dunning, Gray, and Haney are all capable. And then Arizona, Zach Gallen's one of the best in the game, and Saccone and Fott threw the ball, really well. You're going to have moments. And I think coming up to the Braves series is going to be tough as well. They've got great pitching. They're probably not going to score 50 runs in this series against Atlanta. You're going to have to pitch well. And listen, I think that's how the team is built. These last few games, you'd like a little more offensive production, but they're going to pitch and they're going to get some timely hits. Into your point, I don't think they're a top 5 offense, but I think you hit the nail on the head. I think 8 to 12 is kind of that range. I think they're still more than capable of doing that. Yep,
completely agree.
Yeah, and then we'll go back a little bit to the Texas series. We talked about the Arizona series. I know we're kind of going back, and it's always tough to talk about a series that happened. Everyone wants to move forward, but any standouts from you in that Texas series? For me, it was really just a great feeling. Take away individual performances, but getting 2 out of 3 in that series was a nice April statement, I think, for this ball club.
Yeah, completely agree. I think going in, your hope is, obviously after last year, I think they went 0-6, and then the year prior they lost the final 2. So 8 losses in a row, you're going in like, all right, let's just get one and kind of go from there. And so it was awesome doing that, on the heels of a great Gilbert performance. And then the rubber game, we'd have been struggling in rubber games going up to that point. And so pulling that out in game 3, I think was absolutely huge as well. And I think even kind of Service said that like we wanted to go in and kind of let everybody know that this is a new season, new team, and we're the struggles of last year don't necessarily need to carry over to this year. So, and with the shortened or the revised schedule now, you don't play them a ton. So going in and winning a series in Texas certainly, I think gave the team a lot of momentum and hopefully gives them more confidence as they play Texas moving forward, and it should.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, it's April. You don't want to overreact too much to losses or too much to the wins, but like I said, it was lost your last 8 in that ballpark. And truthfully, all 6 last year, I don't think any of them were close. There might have been one that I think Castillo versus Gray last year was a pretty close game, but they were boat raced in Texas
Yeah.
last year. So yeah, to go in there and win that series early on in a division that I think is very winnable. We haven't really talked about that. What's your take on the AL West this year? I think the Mariners can win it. Am I wrong?
No, I think so too. I think obviously everybody was right that we needed to get off to a good start this year. And we did it in terms of the first 12 games or whatever it was. But you take a step back and look where we're at now. Obviously, our record's not great, but it's fine. And so I think being where we're at is good. Where you don't want to be is 4 or 5 games behind Texas with some of the pitching that they have getting healthy. Houston is always very, very, very dangerous. And so with how they've started, I think that gives you a lot more confidence in kind of regards to where they're at. I would not be surprised at all if Houston in a month from now is right back in the thick of it with us in Texas. So, but yeah, no, I think going back to what we've seen from the pitching, that's why I have confidence that we certainly could win the AL West as long as the offense is able to kind of be good enough. Once again, I think they certainly can be. So yeah, it'll be a challenge. It's not going to be easy. But I think we're certainly good enough to do it.
Yeah, no, and that's always kind of been my take as well. That it's certainly when I say I think this team's going to win the division, I don't mean to imply like like a 2013 Seahawks where this team is just locked in, guaranteed. It's going to be a dogfight. It's going to be tough. And even like Oakland's playing better, and Mason Miller lights out the ninth. Don't trail Oakland going to the ninth inning. I will say that. And
Game
Mike
over.
Trout's still going to give us fits when we play the Angels, but and like last year, Texas got off to such a hot start. And I know the Mariners ended up getting back in first place in August, so you can make up ground, but it's discouraging when you start, like to your point, getting 4 or 5, 6 games behind. You feel like you have to make it up. And I'm with you on Houston. I will never count out Houston until I see an X by their name or the E by their name that they're eliminated. But they've dug themselves a legitimate hole so far this year. I mean, they've got to play 10 games over 500 just to get back to 500.
Yeah.
And that's what you don't want to have to do, because I think, a little bit with the Mariners last year, and this might just be a narrative and looking too much into it, but it took all that work to dig out of an early hole, get back into first place. And I wonder if a little bit of the energy was sapped after doing that in September for them.
Yeah, I think that could be the case. It's hard to make up that much ground, both, physically, it's hard to give, I think, guys days off when you're chasing, especially run into some of these head-to-head series, and then mentally too, it's exhausting. So much easier to play out in front for sure.
Well, and even like today, a good example, it had the Mariners lost the first 2 of the series. I wonder if Cal's in there. You try to push it to get the win. You're able to get him some days off. You're able to, like Emerson Hancock's pitching really well, so you can be patient with Brian Wu. If this team's up 3 or 4 games and JP Crawford needs an extra week, you can give him that extra week. I want all these guys back and ready to go, but it also affords you the chance to be a little bit patient with things. And I get it. Like, you got to get the wins when you can get them, but definitely set yourself up for better outcomes later in the season for sure.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. And then coming up next, the Mariners are going to be not heading anywhere. They're staying home, but the Atlanta Braves are coming into town. So it's not getting any easier for the Mariners.
No.
This was a really tough 9-game stretch with Texas, Arizona, and Atlanta. Any thoughts on the Atlanta Braves outside of they're a really, really good baseball team?
Yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult. And that goes without saying. And I think we probably face their 3 best pitchers. I know they have Charlie Morton, but it more just speaks to, I think, how good the 3 are with Max Fried, Reynaldo Lopez, who's been a revelation getting back in the rotation for them, and then Chris Sale. So you face, 2 lefties. I don't know how we fared against lefties this year, and then Lopez in the middle game. And luckily we have Miller and Castillo going, which obviously every series, as we talk about with our pitching, we're going to have good pitching, but yeah, it's going to be an absolute dogfight. And if you come out of that winning 2 or 3, I don't think you could feel better about it. So the Braves they're always so hard to play. I know 2 years ago they were in Seattle. I went to a few of those games, and you never feel like they're out of a game. They're always, 5 minutes away from putting up a 3 or 4 spot. It's deep 1 through 9, that lineup, and their bullpen's very, very good, and they have good starters will be thrown at us. So it'll be, yeah, I don't want to say you just want to get one, but it's one of those series where, and obviously to be a good team, you have to beat good teams. But yeah, I fully expect a very, very challenging series, and every win will be very hard earned, I'm sure.
Yeah, and to your point, that was that series where I know the Julio and Gino home
Yep.
runs to win it. But I think in the ninth inning, the Mariners blew a 5-run lead, if I'm not mistaken. Grossman and Michael Harris
Yeah.
each homered off Paul Sewald. So yeah, that lineup, nothing is safe until 27 outs. And I'm kind of with you. If you can get 2 or 3, I mean, I will take that and run around celebrating like we won a World Series. And to your point, like you never want to sit there and go, oh, 1 win is fine, because that sounds like kind of, you don't want to have that kind of attitude towards it. But if the Mariners did find a way to get a win in this series, and I think they can win the series, I absolutely do.
Sure.
But if you win one, you went 5-4 in a really tough 9-game stretch. I would have signed up for that before the Texas series. So
Yeah,
I wouldn't
absolutely.
be too up in arms.
Nope. Yeah, completely agree.
And then, like you said, 2 lefty starters in this series. What are you looking for? I know you always do a great job. In fact, I got to shout you out today. You nailed the lineup 100% today, the batting order included, not just who was in there, but for your lineup prediction. So very impressive there. Any thoughts with the lineup? And also a quick note for the Mariners. I don't know if you saw, but it looks like they're going to send Jonathan Clase back down to AAA, and Sam Haggerty is going to be promoted. I've talked about that a little bit. I think Rayleigh probably should be getting the at-bats right now. And if Clase is not going to play every day, I think Haggerty offers you a little more versatility. Any thoughts on that roster move?
Yeah, I think it's something I've been kind of thinking about for the last few days and thought it was warranted. Just, Haggerty hits lefties well. I think Clase, I don't think he started switch hitting. I think the left side was his kind of typical side. I think he started switch hitting 2 or 3 years ago. I was reading a scouting report about that a couple weeks ago. So I think he's very new from the right side. And like you said, with Rayleigh starting in left, Haggerty's just a better mix there. And Haggerty also hit righties fairly well last year. And then it's a little bit more defensive versatility of getting on the infield too. So I think it makes sense. And I bet they would have, and I don't know this for sure, but I think they would have maybe done it sooner, but he had some injury or issue at the end of spring training. And so I think maybe they just wanted to get his kind of at-bats underneath them. But I think he'll help. He's done a good job the last 2 years, and he's kind of a little bit of a spark plug. So yeah, I'll be excited to see Haggerty get back in the lineup for sure. So I think it was a smart move. And Clase did some good things. So I think we'll see him back again. And honestly, kid's 20, 21 years old.
Yeah.
So he held his own, more than held his own, I thought. So I'm excited to kind of follow him and see what he can do here in his Mariners career for sure. I think it was a good first impression, nothing that blew the doors off, but I think he, showed that he certainly can belong. And it'll be kind of an interesting piece moving forward.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Clase didn't, the numbers aren't great. And I was listening to Locked on Mariners last week, and they made a good point. Like, he had some important moments. The overall body of work wasn't amazing, but he had some clutch hits. He showed the speed. It looks like he's got enough bat to hang in the big league. So I'm not disappointed at all with what he showed in his small sample size, but I'm with you. I think this just gives them more roster flexibility. And if Haggerty has to sit for 5 days or something, who cares? You're not worried about getting Haggerty at bats. Clase's fast, but you can use Haggerty as a pinch runner and just a little more positional versatility. So I think absolutely the right roster move. But I'm with you, even though like the overall numbers for Clase aren't going to blow anybody away. I thought he acquitted himself pretty well in his first cup of coffee. So excited what he can bring in the future. And then with the Brave series coming up, obviously with the left-handed hitters. Any takes on what we'll see in the lineups that series? I'm assuming we'll see some Luis Urias here. Any insight to that maybe?
Yeah, Urias, I'm sure will get a couple starts at third, and his average isn't good, but you look at like his WRC plus, and it's great because he's taking walks and showing some pop. Let's see. Rivas, I think he's a switch hitter, so he may get a start or two. I wouldn't be surprised to see him give Garver a day off in that second game against a righty because you need him against the lefties. Haggerty will start. I'm sure you'll probably see Cal get that third game off. So I think it'll be a series where you'll see I'd be shocked if you don't see 3 different lineups. So they'll kind of mix and match where they can and try to put their best foot forward for sure.
Yeah, and again, not to keep, but you made a great point on Twitter again, talking about Garver getting the day off in game 2. I think that makes sense. You want him in there against the lefty. I think getting Haniger the day off today, for the
Yep.
most part, he pinched in the 8th. What was a smart idea. And I'm with you. I think you'll see, you got to play Garver against the lefty right now.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to play him against lefties, then, he's got to get going. Like, you have to have him in there at some point. And he swung the bat, like to your point earlier, a little bit better in the D-back series. So I think we'll see him off game 2. Urias probably plays game 1 and 3. A little bit of your thoughts maybe on the third base platoon, because that's kind of been, it was kind of a hot topic, all off season. I certainly don't love that you had to salary dump Gino. I get people's frustration with that trade. Those always stink, but Gino hasn't been that great this year for Arizona, and the Mariners third base platoon is kind of kicking butt. I don't think they'll be this good, but they're certainly showing that they're capable.
Yeah, I mean, it's went incredibly well. And I would agree that, Suarez loved watching him as a Mariner. I'd love to have him on the team this year, but he showed some signs last year of power is his most important trait and kind of showed some signs of losing that. I think he has 2 home runs this year, so on pace for, I don't know what, 12, 13 or so. That could certainly pick up. Would not surprise me at all. But yeah, I mean, the third base platoon has been, I think, is went as well as anybody could hope. Josh Rojas has been incredible. I'm not surprised that he's performing well. I thought when he came over to Seattle last year, he showed a lot of promise. You look at what he did in Arizona in 21 and 22, very good player. Same applies to Urias, right? In 21, 22, very good player. Ran into injuries last year. I know I was one of them where in spring training, the reports weren't really good on him in any capacity, hitting, fielding, whatever it may be, but he's been more than fine, I thought. So yeah, I mean, the third base platoon, it's been great. And I'm getting to the point now where I feel pretty solid about it moving forward. I mean, we're still early enough in the season where things could change, but I mean, Rojas's process in particular has been so strong, and they both have enough of a track record where they've been, good baseball players more often than they weren't, like they were in the first half of last year. They weren't good players, but that's been more kind of the not normal for them. So yeah, very happy with the platoon for sure. It's worked out well.
Yeah, and I think with Rojas, especially Urias, like you said, the average isn't quite there. It's been more a few of the long balls, but it's not just, and I don't expect Rojas. I'm not sure what his OPS is out right now. I think it's over 900. I don't expect that, but he's driving the ball well. Like, it's not just a couple BABIP hits falling in there every time. His at-bats have been really solid, a good process. He's hitting the ball hard. I mean, heck, even I think it was yesterday where it looked like he had a double that Corbin Carroll ran down. Tremendous play by Carroll that was going to make that game 2-0. And he just missed after fouling a ball off his foot today. He almost hit a second home run in this game today. So he is really driving the ball with some authority for sure. So I'm with you. I've been really impressed. And you brought up a good point. Like, these guys' track record, they have a good track record. They've been good hitters more often than they haven't been. And they've dealt with some injuries, which really killed their seasons a little bit for Urias last year and Rojas in the first half. And I know some people really missed Paul Sewald the second half of last year, and I did too. I love Paul Sewald, but I think people forget that if you don't make that trade, then you still have Colton Wong at second base, and you don't get the production you got from Rojas.
Yep. Yeah, and shout out Perry Hill. They both have been solid enough at third base defensively too. I mean, and it seems like it's getting better and better. So I know that was a major concern going. I think even Ryan Divish had kind of reported that neither of them had been good defensively in spring training, but a little bit shaky at first. But they both have been very stellar at the hot corner as well with the gloves. So yeah, could not be happier with that platoon at this point.
Yeah, Rojas has looked fantastic. And I make the point, a lot of videos, like, we've also been really spoiled with third base defense, from Adrian Beltre, Kyle Seager to Eugenio Suarez. So I think any bit of a step back looks really bad for us, but they've really been tremendous. We'll wrap it up here in a couple minutes. Just want to get your last thoughts. Anything in general with the team, maybe some thoughts with Julio, some of his struggles. Looked like he was coming out of it, but tough series for him against Arizona. Anything else you wanted to add before we wrap this up? Maybe any insight you have or any thoughts you have that I haven't mentioned?
No, I think, speaking of Julio, I feel like he's headed in the right direction. I was hoping after his home run in Texas, we might see kind of a flurry of those to come, but we haven't, but I'm sure it's coming at some point. But Overall, yeah, I think I'm happy with where the team is. This week will be a challenge starting with Atlanta, and then we go to Houston this weekend, which that's an interesting one because I obviously no series is a must win, but there's a big opportunity there because I think they swept Colorado this week and just in 2 games. I don't know who they play next, but say they go and win this series early this week, they have a little bit of momentum going. So that the opportunities there is that you could go into Houston and hopefully kind of halt that momentum. So I'll be curious to see how that series plays out this week too. And it looks like we miss Verlander, which that might be the first time in forever. Yeah, that'll
For real.
I know, yeah, it's facing like 6 or 7 times a year, it feels like.
Seriously.
Yeah, so I'm excited for this week, play a really hot Atlanta team, good Atlanta team, and then we'll see where Houston is. You just, like I said, you want to go in there and hopefully win that series and not allow them to continue any momentum, assuming they win this early week series.
Yeah, they play Cleveland, so that's going to be a tough test.
Okay.
And Cleveland's surprisingly playing really good ball. I still like with you. I kind of expect Houston. Listen, Houston's obviously not this bad. I do have some concerns that with the Astros, like we don't have to get into all that here and turn this into an Astros video, but they're going to pull out of this a little bit. And sometimes it's tough playing those teams because they're going to get some wins eventually.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like I hate playing teams I know are good that are struggling because eventually they are going to start to string some wins together. So it's going to be another tough week for the Mariners. I'm actually, I try to look at I'm looking forward to this series with the Braves.
Yeah.
I think you could be, I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but I think the Mariners have potential to be a really good team. I hate saying the word World Series preview. That might be a little premature, but this is going to be a great test for the Mariners as a litmus test to see where they are. I absolutely think their pitching can hold up with Atlanta. And if you can get enough offense, it's a winnable series. So it's going to be a challenging week. I'd much rather have 40 more games against the Rockies, but you got to play the good teams too. And hopefully they can find a way to have a good week here. And, we'll be breaking it down next week.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a lot better playing Atlanta, going in playing well. It's one of those series where if you're on like a losing streak or you've lost 2 of the last 8 over your last 10, you really dread it going in because you need wins. So much better feeling going in playing well. And yeah, I think if we play good, clean baseball, pitch like we can, with our power starting to emerge a little bit more, there's no reason we can't go win a game or 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And great point. Yeah, if the Mariners had gone 1-5 over the 6 games, I probably wouldn't be as excited for the Braves coming in. But yeah, I think with the team playing good ball, it's going to be a fun test. And we'll really get to see kind of where this team is at. And that doesn't mean if the Braves come in and sweep or something that I think this team is terrible now or anything like that. It's 3 games. It's baseball. Heck, the Braves were swept by the A's last year. I bring that series up all the time when talking about how random baseball can be. But it'll be a good litmus test, I think, to see where the Mariners are at. So thank you everybody for checking in today and listening. Really appreciate it. This is going to be a weekly series. Plus, like I said, we're going to have monthly recaps. We're going to be talking about this team a ton. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate this. I look forward to this. Love these discussions, man, and really, really appreciate your insight. And I can't wait to make this a regular part of the show. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Appreciate you having me on.
Always remember to follow MarinerSUR on Twitter. Also remember to hit that like button on the video. Also, do not forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you're going to T-Mobile Park this weekend, download the SeatGeek app or go to their website. Use promo code JSTrident. Save yourself $20 off your next purchase. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. It is going to be a fun series against the Atlanta Braves. I'll be live for the members tomorrow night for the game. So if you're not a channel member, think about signing up. If you are, get ready. It's going to be a fun series with the Braves. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. Take care. And as always, go Mariners. Peace.